7-part Lenten series on the survival of planet Earth. Recently, in teaching about the Pope's encyclical on the care of Mother Earth, I got out that famous series, and with just minor improvements in stats, everything I said in 1976 is true except for one fact. The scholarly enterprise at that time, mostly MIT and Harvard, were saying that we only had till 2001, and they meant it. But because I spoke up and hundreds of thousands of others in all the countries of this planet of ours, we have delayed the prediction. I'm not sure to where our speaker today will tell us maybe how much more time we have, at least from his vantage point. I do want to announce that next week you must come and bring friends for Swindlers, Confidence Men, and Politicians, Trust in America. Maybe some of you noticed an editorial of a local man 2 days ago in the paper, and the subject was about trust. I think we're going to learn a lot of what's under attack in America by this program next week. So be here. Now today I want to give you a little more information than you have sitting on your tables. And I must apologize that we gave our presenter an upgrade today. They reported in the paper that he's a professor at KU, and he got an income upgrade of some great advantage there. But our presenter today has been a Citizens Climate Lobby member since 2011. He is on the Kansas CCL Speakers Bureau and is an active citizen lobbyist. He graduated from Hayes High School in 1973 and studied forestry, biology, and environmental science at the University of Wyoming and Fort Hays State University. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communication from American University in Washington, D.C. While attending night school, he worked full-time as a news cameraman for WUSA TV in Washington, D.C., covering government. And he notes that this issue is close to my heart. Government, when it works, can change the world, and we need to help it to do that. The best solution I have encountered to incentivize a transition to clean energy is a carbon fee. He spent the next 10 years in television advertising, sales, and management at CBS stations in the western states, but his love for the natural world never abated. As their family grew, he and his wife purchased and expanded a 6-state commencement photography business, running it until 2007. Today, semi-retired, I'll give him a better term, phased retirement. That's choice. They enjoy family, visiting national parks, and advocating political will for a livable world. And I hope you'll greet this fine gentleman, Tony Schmidt, for our presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Phil. You all are very gracious for coming today to listen to my talk, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity. This is the subject that I am most passionate about in the world, and I made a decision that I was not going to get involved in any other organizations until we got a carbon fee and dividend passed. And I've been working on that now for well, roughly 6 years. Citizens Climate Lobby has existed for roughly 10 years, But this is a crisis. It really ought to be something that we approach from a standpoint of it being a plague. And there ought to be a lot more desperation about what's happening to our planet. And I'm hopeful that we're starting to see some rays of light. And I'm going to share some of that today. The title of my talk is Solutions for Climate Change. And really, I'm not going to go into all the other potential solutions, such as the Clean Power Plan or cap and trade. Instead, I'm going to talk about, okay, so this thing wants me to sign in. That's why it's not coming up here. There we go, okay. I'm going to just talk about carbon fee and dividend. And
use the microphone, please.
yes, sir. I'm mainly just going to talk about carbon fee and dividend. But I wanted to start things out with a story that I think is kind of wonderful, because I really believe that my role, by the way, I am the state coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby. And I am hopeful that possibly some of you might have some ideas for me in finding people in western Kansas to get a group of Citizens Climate Lobby going, because it's the only district and one of the few in the country that we don't have a chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. Let's get started here. This is a little story. Oops, we're just reversed of what we should be. Does anybody know how to fix that situation? I apologize, folks. That should have been worked out ahead of time. So, do we need to go here, or do we need to go into the computer, don't we? Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it's a setting down here at the bottom. There's the display. We're getting there. All right. That should do it. Make this my main display. Okay. Nope, that didn't do it. I'm terribly sorry. Well, can you give me another moment? Because I really need to get that straightened out. And I'll keep the talk short so we don't go over. do it. Oh. Well, I wonder if I could do this without the,
What do you need? You want the words to be on the left side of the
yeah,
screen?
well, the words need to be on this screen, and it should be just filling the screen with the picture. And I've done everything that I've ever done in the past to make it work properly.
And you click on those images on the bottom and bring them up.
Mr. CEO. Yeah. Did you write your name on?
So, I wonder if there's a way to,
Can't you click on those icons on the bottom and just bring up those images?
well, yeah, I mean, that's is what I would be seeing here, and what I'm seeing here is what you should be seeing. But I'm going to get going, and because I don't want to, I've done everything I can think of. I'll take one more peek at it.
Could you go ahead and just let the words be on there?
Yeah, I could, and that's probably what I need to do.
My granddaughter would be okay.
So that's what we'll do. And again, please forgive me. But during the Apollo mission, this is kind of how I wanted to start out, because I'm hoping to help you to feel like you want to.
the microphone.
I'm hoping to help you feel like you might want to get involved in the climate issue. And so it was during the Apollo mission in 1969 that astronaut Rusty Schweiker was let out of the capsule on an umbilical cord. Usually NASA keeps the astronauts compulsively busy up there, but a peculiar thing happened with Schweiker. Just as he emerged from the capsule, something went wrong inside the capsule. And both the remaining astronauts and mission control in Houston had to concentrate on the problem. And Rusty was left alone floating around Mother Earth in complete cosmic silence. So it was during this time that Rusty had two profound conversion experiences. He looked back on Mother Earth, a shining gem against a totally black backdrop, and he realized everything he cherished was on that gem. His family and land, music, and human history and its folly and grandeur. He was so overcome that he wanted to hug and kiss that gem like a mother does her firstborn child. Compassion flowed through him. But he was trained as a fighter pilot, and he was a typical macho man, but a breakthrough of something bigger came washing over him that moment in space. Rusty's second awakening was a political one. He was a red, white, and blue American, and he believed what he had always been taught, that the world was divided between the communist world and the free world. Yet, while floating around Mother Earth, he saw that rivers flowed indiscriminately between Russia and Europe, and that ocean currents served communist, socialist, and capitalist nations alike. That clouds did not stop at borders to test for political ideology, and that there are no nations. Nations exist in the mind of the human race alone. On returning to Nassau, Schweiker was not debriefed by any spiritual director about his mystical experiences, but he confesses to having wandered around in a state of stupor for 6 months, bumping into walls and asking himself repeatedly this one question: why did God do this to me? And finally he concluded that God did this through him. so that others might hear the message. What message? Compassion, interdependence, shared beauty on this shining, glistening planet, the holy earth. We must take such care of it. It must take such care of us. This side of heaven, we are, each of us, so nearly all that one has. There is darkness all around us, and yet between us, there is just enough light to get by. So I love this story, and I think it's a great way to set the stage as we're talking about one of the most important things, our beautiful planet. And that's what this is about. This is not about us personally. This is about our planet and the pulse of our planet. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is primarily our atmosphere. But we, of course, also have ocean acidification, and we were talking about that at lunch. It's such a multifaceted problem because it's the entire system of the planet Earth that we're talking about. But here's our atmosphere, and it's just a thin layer. It's kind of a transparent little edge, and I find it extremely beautiful and delicate. It's similar to the layer of moisture on our eye. And this very thin layer, it's called the troposphere, is 99% of that atmosphere is made up of just two elements, nitrogen and oxygen. So it's just the remaining 1% where the greenhouse effect is happening. And that's made up of water vapor, CO2, and methane. And that's where the greenhouse effect occurs. There's mounting evidence about the warming of our planet as the result of the buildup of CO2 in our atmosphere. And the most critical aspect, and I'm sure you guys are all aware, and I'm going to get through this science part quickly, but is the Arctic. And that's what we should be concerned about. The Arctic is the engine of our climate. It is the engine of the weather. It's what drives the Gulf, or the jet stream. And the jet stream is what moves our weather patterns across our country, or causes them to stall and sit in place and create droughts or create deluges. Here is a great example of September '79, the Arctic summer sea ice, and then September 2015. And you can see how dramatically it has changed in that period of time. And this is the most major harbinger of climate change, is what's going on in the Arctic. It's not what's happening out in your backyard right now, even though that's bad enough. It is the Arctic. There's so many great sources for material about climate change. There's the Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, NASA, EPA, the American Meteorological Society. You can get the information, and if this isn't legitimate information, I don't know what is. The United States has spent vast sums studying this problem in the past couple decades. In fact, I'll get to that in just a minute. Here's a whole bunch more information that Ken Lassman, one of our members, created on the most current information about climate science. And I'd be happy to provide this for you guys. It explains the difference between climate and weather, which is a critical difference. You can't make a judgment about climate change because it's snowing outside today, and yet we have senators doing those kinds of things. We've got to become advocates for the science and the fact that something is happening. So, ultimately what it boils down to is the increase in temperature that we will experience as a planet. You know, everything else aside, that is the issue. And, you know, we've trucked right along at where we've been actually for the last 15,000 years, but suddenly we're seeing dramatic increases in climate. And these are some of the various scenarios that we could experience between now and the end of the year, end of the century. The other night, we had Brigadier General Chris King speak to the city of Lawrence at the public library about the issue of climate change and how serious the military takes it. And he is the Dean of Academics at the Command and General Staff College in Leavenworth. And Brigadier General Chris, well, he's retired, just recently retired, but he's very vibrant on this subject. And he was explaining to us about hot spots in the world that we have right now. And right here is a kind of a view of the Tibetan Plateau. This is one of the biggest worries that the military has. There's 3.2 billion people at risk in the Tibetan Plateau, where the Himalayas are and where the glaciers of the Himalayas exist. You know, 10 major rivers support every major Asian country in that neck of the woods. Snow and ice loss, and really moisture, water scarcity is the issue. That's what climate change boils down to for so many poor people in the world. And so floods and droughts are likely, sea level rise, precipitation change, extreme weather. He explained to us how he had been involved in a humanitarian mission in Africa, in Uganda, where they had 1 million people had been displaced, and the incredible complexity of trying to care for 1 million people. And he said, you know, we're talking billions here. Here's an image of, it shows kind of the glacial lakes that form at the termini of glaciers as a result of rapid melting.